All right, this from X22. This guy's arrested. He goes to a legal hearing.
He also said that there's a lot of indictments and everything coming that's going to hurt Trump. And it turns out that he has a lot of problems of his own. And Michael Avenatti was once again arrested while attending a California State Bar disciplinary hearing for
Disciplinary hearing, State Bar, and was arrested. Wow.
another legal matter. And his arrest came outside of the California disciplinary hearing related to allegations that the attorney scammed a client of almost $840,000. Now, what's very interesting is that Michael Avenatti, he made the rounds on CNN, MSNBC, and all these stations, and he was on almost every single night. And they were presenting him like he was the man who was going to take down Trump with Stormy Daniels. And now we can see that all of this has completely turned around, and everything that they pushed turns out to be completely fake. Now, no proof of any of this. This is not even in the articles of impeachment. Plus, Nancy Pelosi, just like Adam Schiff, when she was talking to Congress, when she was talking to the American people, she did exactly what Schiff did. She changed what Trump said to Zelensky.
Of course. These articles of impeachment were instructed by Nadler.
They sent additional files of evidence. This is the documentation of different notes that Parnas supplied them. Has no date on it. We don't know who wrote it. He's saying he wrote it. When did he write them? We don't know. Is this really evidence? It could have been after the fact. But they sent this evidence to be included in the impeachment articles constructed by HJC Chairman Jerry Nadler. Now, it is all coordinated. The new evidence relates to information turned over by Lev Parnas, an SDNY indicted former associate of Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. The lawfare purpose is to bolster their premise that Trump was trying to force Ukraine President Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden corrupt activity around the Ukrainian company Burisma. The lawfare crew behind Schiff waited until the last minute to push the new evidence because they didn't want Republicans to deconstruct it during the impeachment evidence gathering phase. So they held it back and they waited for the right moment. Plus, remember, they all of a sudden came out with this hacking story. Now, the lawfare crew anticipate a Trump impeachment defense surrounding actual evidence of the Biden corruption, which makes the Trump request to Zelensky valid. So the proactive Democrat strategy is to use the New York Times presentation of Russia hacking Burisma to negate the provenance of the evidence against the Bidens. This is to cast doubt upon any documents.
Now, of course, we know that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have both acted in money laundering schemes. There's no two ways about it. It's just that he doesn't want to want this to be shown up in their newscast, but they're going to be forced to look at it during this trial.
Which makes the Trump request to Zelensky valid. So the proactive Democrat strategy is to use the New York Times presentation of Russia hacking Burisma to negate the provenance of the evidence against the Bidens. This is to cast doubt upon any documents that which would show Joe and Hunter Biden participating in actual influence and money laundering scheme. Now, the SDNY created legal coverage upon Lev Parnas using the familiar strategy of charging FARA violations as noted in the background of the House explanation. The purpose is to extract anything from Parnas that could be twisted or construed to show evidence that Rudy Giuliani was working on behalf of Trump to pressure Ukraine into investigating Burisma. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, to counter any evidence that would highlight the truth that Hunter and Joe Biden were indeed participating in a pay-to-play influence and money laundering scheme for personal financial benefit. The same Democratic operative created a 2020 Russian hacking claim using former CrowdStrike employee Blake Darch and his colleague Oren Folkowitz. The whole thing was planned. But the deep state plan has already failed before they can even introduce that evidence in front of the Senate. Why? When did Rudy Giuliani start investigating Biden's and Ukraine and everything else? It was a long time ago. Way, way before Trump even spoke to Zelensky. He already had the information. The documents that he has, the evidence that he has collected, has nothing to do with the hacking of Burisma. This is where their entire story is going to fall apart.
So they're going to show that it has nothing to do with Burisma. That's going to be interesting.
Think about what happened with Mueller. How he was ready to indict everyone. Brennan was actually telling us that indictments are coming down very soon, and he's saving Trump for last because he doesn't want Trump to run and hide anything. Well, that was countered, wasn't it? Remember the whistleblower who had the goods on Trump because he knew what was said in the call, even though he didn't listen to it, but he knew what was said in the call and it wasn't good? Well, Trump countered that by releasing the call. Why are the Patriots allowing this to happen? Why are they allowing these individuals to proceed? Because it's about exposing how low these people will go to protect themselves.
Okay, we're going to end this part here and look at other parts of it. This picture here, remember when Trump put up the picture of Rocky Balboa and so forth, going against Draco, and he threw everything he could at him, and he got tired, and then he whipped him. They're going to run out of substantive punches. They already are. And that's going to be pretty obvious to the people.
Fire out. What's happening with the deep state and the Dems? They're running out of ammunition. Soon, they will have nothing left. And if you notice, what they're throwing at Trump, there's no substance. Just like a tired punch. There's no boom to it. And Trump tweeted this out on November 27, 2019. And on that day, on November 27, 1985, Rocky knocked out Drago in the 15th round. So Trump is a counterpuncher. He doesn't hit first. But when he fights back, the punch is 10 times harder. This tells us that Trump and the Patriots are about to hit the deep state very hard.
We shall see about that. This is another true statement by Trump. Crime Chuck Schumer just said the American people want a fair trial in the Senate. True. But why didn't nervous Nancy and corrupt politician Adam Schiff give us a fair trial in the House? It was the most lopsided and unfair basement hearing in the history of Congress. What a statement.
If you need a new...
So this is the White House team, the defense team. We'll see what they're going to do here.
Pura. It's Patrick Phil.
Now, Jay Sekulow, we know that he's pretty sharp. I don't know these other two guys. But I imagine they're pretty good. And it's Patrick Philbin? I don't even know. They don't even have a picture of him.
These individuals, they are going to destroy the managers. They're going to destroy the Dems team. Think about what happened in the House hearings, the ones that were made public, where we had Jim Jordan, where we had Nunes, Radcliffe, Meadows.
It's going to be a knockout for sure. It's going to be pretty tough for the Dems to get up after this is all done. They're going to look pretty asinine and ridiculous, to say the least. All right, so let's see what else he's got here.
Ted Cruz, he is recommending that the Republicans should allow former National Security Advisor John Bolton to testify in Trump's Senate impeachment trial in order to call a witness of their own to defend the president. Now, he pitched the idea of witness reciprocity to GOP leadership in the chamber after the Senate Democrats announced last month they wished to subpoena Bolton. Now, his proposed strategy would mean that if the Democrats call their witnesses, Republicans could call their own as well, such as former Vice President Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, and the whistleblower at the center of the impeachment process. Now, McConnell said the following: "We'll be dealing with the witness issue at the appropriate time into the trial." And I think it's certainly appropriate to point out that both sides would want to call witnesses if they wanted to hear from them. So we'll have to wait to see how this plays out. But one thing we know for sure is that the Senate was the key.
Okay, let's move on. Now he's talking about Rudy Giuliani taking on the mafia. I'm sure he didn't go in there blind. I'm sure he's had some pretty snaky characters to deal with.
Go and talk to these individuals, get information. Of course, he recorded all of this information. He has everything that was done in these meetings. They were prepared for this. This is not Rudy Giuliani's first rodeo. He's done this before. He knows how to protect himself if the deep state.
Now remember, Rudy Giuliani said, and he's not going to, but he said, this trial should be really null and void. There's no crimes that have been committed. It's unconstitutional to bring these articles up when there's no real crimes been committed. These are not high crimes and misdemeanors. They're not. So he's not going to be dismissed, but again, they've got things on Roberts. He's going to play along and go through the trial.
State tries to make a move. Now, very interestingly, Sidney Powell has made an incredible move, and timing is everything. So Sidney Powell filed a motion to withdraw his guilty plea, General Flynn's guilty plea, arguing the government breached its obligations under the plea agreement the retired general had entered with the special counsel's office in late 2017. Prosecutors, they promised in the plea agreement to file a departure motion pursuant to Section 5K1.1 of the sentencing guidelines if Flynn provided substantial assistance to the government. The government kept the pledge until they didn't. On December 4, 2018, prosecutors working for the special counsel's office filed a memorandum in aid of sentencing, stating that the government has moved for a downward departure pursuant to Section 5K1.1 to reflect Flynn's substantial assistance to the government. Section 5K1.1 authorizes a judge to depart from the sentencing guidelines, a set of standards used to assess an appropriate sentencing range for a defendant. Now, if the government files a motion stating that the defendant has provided substantial assistance in the investigation or prosecution of another person who has committed an offense, a court cannot depart from the guidelines under Section 5K1.1 unless the prosecution files such a motion. And they kept the promise until a week ago. In its supplemental memorandum of sentencing, prosecutors reneged on their promise after acknowledging in the opening paragraph of its memorandum that it filed a motion for a downward departure pursuant to Section 5K1.1. for a substantial assistance, government attorneys asserted they were no longer moving for a departure under USS G 5K1.1 for providing substantial assistance to the government. That's a problem because prosecutors already admitted that Flynn had provided substantial assistance to the government in obtaining the charging document for the prosecution of Flynn's former business partner. And the plea agreement requires the government to file that motion if Flynn provided substantial assistance. There is nothing in the plea agreement that purports to provide the government with the power to withdraw that motion for a substantial assistance. In short, the government breached the plea agreement. Now, this is good news.
So, government breached the agreement. So, what's that got to mean?
Withdrawing the plea will now force the government to prove its case.
It will force the government to prove its case. Interesting.
Now, Devin Nunes said something very interesting, which goes along with the government proving their case. Representative Devin Nunes said that the Republican lawmakers were told way back in 2017 that General Flynn was innocent and did not lie to FBI investigators. This is very, very important because Sidney Powell has now rescinded the guilty plea, and there is evidence to show that he didn't lie. Now, Cowboy W2B made connections between Trump's tweet and Flynn. This is what he tweeted out. What are the odds? Trump tweet says, former National Security Advisor. The timestamp of Trump's tweet is 10/18/2218. Q drop 2218 is a picture of General Flynn. General Flynn was Trump's former National Security Advisor. Q says, in the end, all will be right. Now, let's take a look at Mr. Flynn's motion to withdraw a plea of guilty and unopposed motion for continuance. This part is very interesting, and this goes back to those watches that we were looking at before. This is what it says. Michael T. Flynn hereby moves to withdraw his plea because of the government's bad faith, vindictiveness, and breach of the plea agreement. See ECF number 150. Mr. Flynn also requests a continuance of the
Breach of plea agreement. Bad faith is what they're calling it. Interesting terms.
sentencing date set for January 28th, 2020, for 30 days or until February 27th, 2020, or such other subsequent day that is convenient to the court and counsel. So wait a minute. 30 days from January 28th to February 27th. Remember the watches? We had one watch, which was marker 1, that was set to the 19th. We had the other watch that was set, which was marker 2, set to the 27th. Sidney Powell just asked for a continuance because what did Van Grack do? They were talking about jail time, and Flynn was not supposed to get jail time. So now we have the 19th and the 27th. The 27th is the 30 days that they set for this continuance, starting on that date of when the sentencing was supposed to happen. So does that mean the 19th is going to be the day that they bring out the FISA warrant, declass it, and show that Flynn was set up and Flynn goes free in 30 days? Exactly 30 days. Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. Now think about this. This is all happening at the same time as the fake impeachment trial. So Flynn most likely...
So, let me wrap my head around this. If they bring out this declass stuff on the 19th, trying to impeach Trump, this is all going to work in the favor of both Flynn and Trump. And then we've got the State of the Union address at the end of the month. Wow. It's going to be a knockdown month if this happens like this.
Likely will go free. There'll be a declassification while the fake impeachment is happening. I don't believe this is a coincidence. I believe this was planned. And we all know that the Patriots, they're putting together a perfect storm. This includes spying, treason, crimes against humanity. And something very interesting happened with Prince Andrew. We know that he stepped out of the public spotlight after he tried to explain his interactions with Epstein and others, and he started to get messed up with it, and people started to call him out on it. Well, it seems that the Mirror decided to submit a Freedom of Information Act request to the police in Britain. And the British police have blocked their request because they wanted to know where Prince Andrew was during this time period, saying that if we can figure out where he was during this time period, it would exonerate him from all of this. But the British police blocked a legal bid to trace Prince Andrew's bodyguard's movements on the night he allegedly first had sex with Jeffrey Epstein's accuser. So what is the excuse that the British police are using? Well, they're saying it's a national security issue, and they cannot release that information. Now, this happened 19 years ago. There's no way that that data can possibly be a national security issue today, either directly or indirectly, revealing where he was. And if it truly exonerated him, they would put it out in a moment's notice. But I do believe that it shows something completely different, and that's why they're not releasing it. Now, something very interesting happened out in Russia. Just like Trump and the Patriots are cleaning house, it seems that Russia now is also cleaning house. The entire Russian government is resigning in a surprise move shortly after Putin delivered his annual State of the Nation address. Now, Putin accepted the resignations, thanked them for their service, and asked the ministers to remain in office until a new government can be formed. Now, Medvedev said the resignations are in accordance with Article 117 of the Russian Constitution, which states that the government can offer its resignation to the president, who in turn can either accept or reject. Now, Putin, he was coming up with a new plan, and he was changing things around. And he was going to allow the State Duma, the lower house of the nation's legislature, allow them to have the power to appoint a prime minister and the rest of the cabinet. He was basically taking the power and diversifying the power and giving it back to the people. And it seems that these individuals decided to jump ship. Why? What are they going to get caught up in? But it seems like Putin is cleaning house. Now, a couple days ago, we had the mainstream media push out stories about QAnon conspiracies, about how this mom was planning to kidnap her child, and she was plotting with certain QAnon folks. Now, we know that this is all a bunch of BS. We also had the mafia hitman writing Q on his hand, and the mainstream media is just pushing these stories, and they're doing it on purpose. We know why. We've went over this many, many times. But the judge did something very, very interesting. He decided that all the information in the case will not be allowed to be released to the public. Why? Why did he decide not to release this information? Was it because it was going to expose the PSYOP? Maybe. Now, at the Milwaukee rally, Trump said something very interesting, and I do believe that this is the first time Trump even mentioned this. He talked about Loretta Lynch being bribed with a seat on the Supreme Court by Bill Clinton. Remember when they met on the tarmac? Well, Lisa Mae Crowley, she tweeted out the following. POTUS at tonight's rally talking about the tarmac meeting. They, Clinton, may have made her, Lynch, an offer where you're going to the Supreme Court. Now, if we go back to post 1148, it says, coincidence? Supreme Court, Loretta Lynch, deal drop. POTUS tweet, tarmac, coming soon to a theater near you. Under this, it says side-by-side graphics are important. To be clear, Loretta Lynch was promised the Supreme Court position of RBG, Coordinated Plan RBG, big problems. Now there's a meme and it says, but you promised, and it's a picture of Loretta Lynch. And then there's Hillary Clinton with her hands up, looking, saying, no way. Now under this, it says, we thought it was Scalia. Thanks for spelling it out, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I need to fix Ma SCOTUS meme. Under this, it says, think timing. Loretta Lynch remains AG HRC. HRC, which is Hillary Clinton, appoints new AS replacement, Adam Schiff replacement. RBG steps down. Loretta Lynch steps up. New AG, the plan, Q. So if Trump just mentioned this to the people at the rally, it must mean that this information is coming up very, very soon. And we can see that the Patriots now, they're moving forward. They are hunting all these people, and they're getting ready to produce the facts, the evidence, and they will be defending themselves against all of this. Because once these fake impeachment hearings fail and it's turned against the Dems, the deep state, the gloves are off. Remember, Trump put up that picture, that tweet with his head on Rocky Balboa. He's going to hit hard, and it's going to be 10 times harder than anything the deep state, the Dems, have thrown at him, because he has the truth, he has the facts, and he has the evidence. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening.
It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens on the 19th. I'm going to post that as the heading on this, and we'll go from there. Good day.